Yeah, I feel like the boat's rocking. I don't know if you can hear the wind blowing, but we've got some storms coming our way. Check out that radar. We've got some storms on the north end of the lake right there coming this way. Doesn't look too bad right now, but the wind's going to pick up and the temperature's going to drop a little bit. Cold front. I think the worst of it's over east of us past McKinney. Same system that kind of hit us last night at about 4 in the morning. Yeah, it's going to be rocking. Here in the captain's salon, we're going to be going through the Handbook of Sailing. I put a link in the description. This is Bob Bond, the author. We're going to go through this book. Last episode was navigation, basic navigation, but we're going to look through the chapter of meteorology, aka weather. And what a better day to do it than today. We've got storms on the horizon. Meteorology. Okay, so we've got a whole chapter dedicated to the wind, storm, and weather forecasting, how weather develops. Some of the basics when you're out on the water and you have a storm approaching and you're anchored out or you're in the marina, you have to know your cloud shapes. Now if you can see this, I'll put this up on screen. We've got a few different cloud shapes. This one right here, the shallow cumulus, is a good weather cloud. That cloud, you can expect the wind to be variable and light. Now these cumulus clouds can grow. Look, this second picture here. That grows and builds, and that can produce the rain. So if you see this cloud growing into this cloud, you know what's coming. And the way you can tell is the rounded tops start pushing upward, and then it starts to build rain and strong winds. The third type of cloud is this one right here, and that's called a cumulonimbus. So this picture here, and then it grows down here, this picture, and then this picture here, you can see where it grows. It starts like that, it grows, and this produces a lot of rain. When this cloud comes out, you can expect to get the showers, snow, hail, and then as it grows and starts to cover a lot of the area where you're at, you can expect very strong winds to hit you at that point. These are the type of clouds we see on the radar. See, on the radar, you can see that these type of clouds produce the red that we see on the radar. They're very dense and heavy. They may have rain and hail, but they look very different outside. What if, in this day and age, we have our phones at hand, but what if it dies, or what if we can't see it? What if we don't have a phone or device to see the radar? So we can look at that and just kind of determine how dense it is by the color, and the color is usually that dark gray or even blackish or dark purple. Now the rain's starting to come, and I can see we're already starting to get hit, but let's move on. This spring weather will develop a pattern, and the summer will have its own pattern. How does that apply to sailing? Well, if you're going to plan an outing and you're going to invite friends over, then you're going to want to make sure it's a good weather window. The weather window determines how happy your guests are and how comfortable your sail is. Are you a racer? Do you want to get out into the most wind of all and go full speed? More power to you, but that takes a special skill and desire to do. A lot of people aren't as skilled, and they want to get on the boat and they want to experience the yachting lifestyle. So we've got to look for a weather window when we bring our guests, because that ensures that they have a good time. When the rain is like this and it's coming, you can feel the boat pushing over. Someone who's not on the boat and they feel this wind and the rain starts coming down, even though we're on the inside and we're safe, it just feels they may get a little sick. It just feels like their stress levels going up. They probably won't come back out unless they've been out on the lake and camping and whatnot their whole life. They may, but if it's someone who just you bring on board, you want to experience, and that's the key, bringing others on board and getting more people involved into sailing, but they got to get a little taste of it. And so it's okay to get a little weather like this. But you could take the time with the knowledge like this, with the handbook, you could read it for yourself, and then you could explain that and ease the tension that the guests feel because they don't know what's going on. So this is why the knowledge of this is important. And this is why I'm making this video, to show you how weather develops. And what a better day to do it than this. We got weather upon us. So if we look at some basics here that we want to explain, we know that we have this inversion and this radiation of heat from the earth, and it creates a division line from the atmosphere coming down. We have the jet stream, we have wind blowing past, we have the radiation coming up, and so this inversion layer is where it kind of mixes in. It rotates in. That's how it forms. So when you look out, you could start to see the clouds form in that layer. On the other end of the spectrum, the sun's heat breaks through, breaks up that inversion layer, and that's where it starts the whole process. Because warm air is less dense than cold air, it'll rise above, and the cold air will come below, and that creates the inversion cycle. So that's a basic thing that helps you understand what's happening up there. And when we look on the radar, it's two-dimensional. You can't see all that. You can't see it like that on the radar. But you can look at the radar, interpret it when you look outside, match it up. Bank that in the memory bank, like an old sailor. And then every time you see that cloud, you can associate it with that. Heck, screenshot it. Put it in a file folder. Use technology. And you could match that up with your fishing and make a nice set of data on when you caught the fish and what the weather was like. The earth spins around, and we have the winds prevailing in different directions at different hemispheres. So here in Texas, in the middle of the states, we're in a subtropical high zone, and we're right next to a temperate low zone. And I'll show you that. So right here, right there, the blue lines that are going up towards New York, and then the temperate zone above it, where they're coming back down from Washington, create a diagonal pattern, a diagonal line that runs right through this area, right through Texas. Every year at this time, we can count on storms, and they're going to run that way. They're going to start over here in West Texas, and they're going to go up towards, let's say, Tennessee. And, you've seen maybe on the news, Oklahoma, Tennessee, a lot of tornadoes, a lot of storms, even down here in Texas. And then we have the temperate above, colder air coming back down, pushing it. So that is where the northern air and the southern air are fighting, the north against the south, once again, every year. So who's going to win? In the winter, the north is. In the summer, the south is. So that's just kind of a basic there. You could look that up online and look it up and see where you're at and see if, in fact, the weather patterns every year follow these jet streams and the way that the air mixes in these masses. And I think it's good to understand and just start to read the book, understand what I'm looking at outside, and not be dependent upon the radar. I don't like that red, yellow. It's stressful. You look at that. No, get out. Look out the window. Look at those clouds. Study them. You're not going to be as stressed on the inside looking at something gray. But that red on that screen, do it to you every time. kind of not, it makes you where you don't even want to get out. All right. So if we move into the section of the winds, we can see that we have stable weather and wind patterns that are generally in the same directions and through different types of the seasons. This is why we have a hurricane season. This is why we have different seasons where people need to relocate their boats or protect them or make sure they're tied down and different things. But you can count on them every year. The winds, they cause different temperatures. They cause different pressure. They're there because they're trying to move different pressure systems. And that's what I'm talking about. These low and high pressure systems that move over the globe. The winds are responsible for moving those around. And the global temperature and these complex motions they form, they cause these weather wind patterns. This is something you can get an app. I think there's a windy app. I use iBoating. There's other ones that you can use that you can look at the wind direction. Now I try to glean out of this book some important information for beginners or people that don't know this aspect of it. This is a lot of good reading. We can say that we can understand how terrain, if you're next to mountains, how the wind flows down, how that affects the air. If you were anchored out there and you have this wind that descends because of this heat exchange, it may be really windy right there. It may be better to go over to the flatter side of the island. Here we're kind of protected in this protected area of the marina from the incoming waves. And there's a tree stand right over there at the end that kind of blocks some of that south wind. Over here on the north, not so much. That's why we're kind of leaning this way today. That's where the storm's coming from. So now we get into, if you're out on the water, okay, and you have this weather come upon you, well, if you're gonna think you're gonna sail through it, think again. You better put that sail down. I've been in storms like the one in Texoma. That one, years ago, we could not get the sails down fast enough before that wind picked up, and we just had a sliver of the storm sail jib up, and it caught and laid that boat over. And I couldn't believe that just a sliver of that sail up when that wind hit could heel that boat over like that. And we finally got it cut loose, and that's a whole nother video. But you can see here we've got some pictures in the book what wind does to waves, what the wind does to the water, and we can say, okay, they rate these as different speeds, have different names. So we could say we have a gentle breeze. That means certain things. The terminology is good because if two people are talking, you say there's a gentle breeze, we're saying 7 and 10 knots, okay? So that's the kind of weather window I want to bring my guests out and introduce them into sailing so they don't shy away, is I want that 7 to 10 knot gentle breeze. They'd be happy to come. We have a moderate wind between 11 and 16 knots. Now this is where I like to sail. I like to get out there and cruise, and I can do it nicely like in the videos that I do on the sailing into Nirvana, Lake Louisville sailing. We're looking at maybe a 7, 10, and then in the afternoon it picks up 11, 15, 16 knots, and that makes it fun. Then it dies back down, and we can put the boat back in the marina very easily. We have a fresh breeze that's going to be up above that, the 17 to 21. You're going to see moderate wind. You might see a little wave action, not too bad, not white capping. But when you get over that 17 mark, you're going to see that white cap, and you can look out and see the white caps. Now, when I was on my parents' boat and I was younger, well, yeah, we sailed and we knew white caps. And that's pretty choppy, and you're heeled over, and you got to know what you're doing. You don't want to be taking a lot of people out on something like that unless they're experienced and know what to do automatically, and you've already run through the drills on a lesser wind day. So we could say we got a near gale, a strong gale, and a violent storm. Okay, so we're looking at 28 to 30 knots, 41 to 47 knots, and 56 to 63 knots. See, so that's what it means. If I was in a violent storm, like on Texoma, 60 knots. Okay, so in the book it has a nice chart here that goes and tells you every aspect of what it means, and this is good to have and understand, like what's happening, what are the signs on land, what is the one design criteria, what is the cruising boat criteria. So let's pick one. 11 to 16 knots. So on a one design boat, your cruise is going to be fully extended there, planning on most points of sailing, and they call this a learner's gale. But the cruiser sails at whole speed, and it's very comfortable. So this can facilitate the use of the larger sails, and that's fun. And maybe one reef on the main, not too bad. Cruisers, their sail plan's much different. The weight of a cruising boat like this one keeps it planted in that keel down in the water. On a smaller boat, in length and weight, then you're going to be tossed around by the wind. So you got to keep that in consideration. Okay, finally, the book, we can go through the book even further. I'll try to glean some more out here. We could talk about fog. We can talk about the cause of the tides. We could learn how to do that. We could talk about we could learn what the tides are doing, and if you're out in Anchorage where you're on the coastal regions and there's a tide, you must know that. That could plan your whole day. But the key is, how are these tides, what causes the tides? So I won't get into much of that today, maybe on another episode, but we do know that we could simply say that the wind, the gravitation, the way it affects the water, the way that these storm systems affect, the way that a high pressure system, the lack of the low pressure, creates a whole different water. So that's another day, but we'll wrap it up today, and good luck getting back out on the water. As always, I've put the link in the description below. And we're just trying to get more knowledge, better sailing, and get back out on the water. Cheers.